If I wasn't a footballer, I would have been a gangster. Welcome to the world of Hristo Stoichkov, a man that turned every rule book upside down, did the impossible on multiple occasions, and ended up being one of the most iconic figures of world football. Born on the 8th of February 1966 in Plovdiv, Bulgaria, a city known for its rich history and culture, being one of the oldest cities in the world, as well as its rough areas and tough people. Stoichkov grew up dreaming of being a footballer. However, he knew that the most likely outcome would be him becoming a miner, since that was the most possible outcome in the city he was from. He, however, did not let this stop him. Just because nobody else had made it out of the city before didn't mean that he wasn't going to be the one. So on the day he turned 11 years old, after begging his dad to pretty much sign him up to a football academy for the last 2 years, his dad finally gave in and signed him up to the local football team, Maritza Plovdiv. He, however, did not find it easy there. See, there was quite a bit of difference between the street style that he was used to and training with a proper coach and other teammates at Maritza Plovdiv. But his talent was evident. Everybody from the coaches to his peers knew that he was special. However, he was a little bit of a troublemaker as well, distracting other kids that were further behind in their development than he was, which wasn't ideal for the coaches, let's say. One day, one of the coaches at Maritza Plovdiv pulled him to the side and told him that he might as well stop trying because he would never make it as a professional footballer. He told him that he didn't have the discipline, he didn't have the respect to others, and that he's not working hard enough to be able to make it as a professional. Stoichkov played it down in front of his friends and he acted like he didn't care about what the coach told him, but deep down he was hurt. He realized he only had two options in this situation. He was either going to give up on football or he was going to use this negativity as fuel for his success. And this is exactly what he did. See, he always had this chip on his shoulder. It wasn't that he just wanted to prove his coach wrong. He wanted to prove everybody else wrong. He wanted to prove people that you can make it to the world stage even if you come from a small city. So what did he do? Well, he did what he knew what to do best. He put his head down, he trained more, he became smarter, he became better, he became faster, he became stronger, and at the end of the day, all of the effort I put in paid off. Stoichkov had outgrown the streets of Plovdiv by a lot, so it was time for him to move. Fast forward to 1982, when Stoichkov, now a teenager, moved to Hebros Harmonly to pursue his dream further. This was his first shot at professional football and he knew he had to impress everyone. He averaged a goal every other game, he also had a lot of assists, he was basically hungry and unstoppable. But it was never about the numbers, it was about his flair, it was about his style. It was almost about his audacity to even try some of the things that he tried and pulled off. See, he was the kind of player that could make the crowd hold its breath. He was the kind of player that could change the game in a split second. He was the kind of player that could make people pay good money to go and watch the match just for him. And so people started to notice. Everybody from the media, scouts, coaches, everybody started attending Hebros games to be able to see this young sensation. Soon, he outgrew Hebros as well, so he knew he had to move. Scoring goals at Hebros was one thing, but doing it on the big stage was a completely different animal. CSK Sofia had offered him a tryout and he grabbed the opportunity with both hands. This is where his life would change forever. The year was 1985 and he had just arrived at CSK Sofia. From the first day he set foot there, everybody knew he would be a sensation. Now, 19 years old, he was quickly evolving from a great talent to one of the best players in the region. And just as everything seemed to be coming together for him, his life would turn upside down. CSK played their biggest rivals, Levski Sofia, in a Bulgarian Cup final that same year. What you need to understand is that the matches between these two are always intense and full of controversy, but on that day in particular, chaos erupted. On that day, there was a brawl so intense, it resulted in the lifetime bans of multiple players and the termination of both clubs. Stoichkov was one of the players that received a lifetime ban. Kinda scary, right? Well, not really. The moment the Bulgarian Communist Party released its decision to terminate both clubs, fans from both sides gathered together and started to riot. Scared of the damage that the people might cause to multiple cities in Bulgaria, both of the clubs were reinstated. Under different names, however, later on they were allowed to switch back to their old names. But Marin, what happened with the lifetime bans for all of the footballers? Well, they got reduced to a year-long ban. So each one of the footballers that partook in the brawl got a year-long ban and they were back after that. That gave Stoichkov his second chance at redemption. And I think maybe realizing how close he came to just everything being taken away from him after such a stupid decision, I kind of feel like he decided to put his head down and work even harder. Stoichkov was a changed man when he came back. He still had that edge to him and he was still extremely sharp and aggressive. However, he did not involve himself in any more on-pitch fights. During his comeback season in 1987, he scored 24 goals in 31 matches, which was an incredible achievement, especially for someone his age, but it wasn't enough for CSKA Sofia to win the title. So next season, he decided to try even harder. He scored 38 goals in 42 matches. He was a man on a mission. However, this still wasn't enough, and that was another year where CSKA did not win the Bulgarian title. So tired and disappointed, Stoichkov realized that would be an impossible feat to achieve, and so he gave up. Wait, this is Stoichkov we're talking about. The next season he came back better. He had refined his game, he became an overall better striker and improved his passing. And most importantly, he was hungrier than ever. The 89-90 season saw him scoring 48 goals in 40 matches, which was enough for him to bring the title back to CSKA Sofia and earn him the European Golden Boot. Well, he had to share it with Hugo Sanchez, who had just secured the 5th consecutive La Liga title for Real Madrid and had become the top scorer of La Liga for the 5th time in a row. But if you ask me, that's a great achievement. And even though the award was a great achievement that has not been repeated ever since, that wasn't the biggest thing that happened that year. See, because back in the day when Bulgarian football was somewhat decent and we had some good teams, CSKA Sofia had drawn Barcelona in the Cup Winners' Cup semi-finals, which meant that Hristo Stoichkov had the chance to test himself against one of the very best teams in Europe. And that's exactly what he did. See, Barcelona won both matches with an aggregate score of 6-3. Hristo Stoichkov was the best player on the pitch in both matches. He scored 2 goals at the Camp Nou and 1 goal at home. The Catalans were seriously impressed by him and they used the opportunity to discuss a possible deal. In fact, Johan Cruyff, the Barcelona manager at the time, was adamant. He wanted him and him only. When Stoichkov learned about the interest from the Catalan club, he did not want to hear any other offers. He signed a pre-contract right away. See, he signed a pre-contract and he started preparing himself for everything that's to come right away. However, he did not tell his family about the contract, so nobody knew that he was actually signing for Barcelona until the very last moment. And when I'm saying his family, I mean he didn't tell his wife, he didn't tell his parents, he didn't tell anyone. You see, later on, he said that the reason he didn't want to tell anybody about the deal was because he didn't want to spend time in useless celebration and he didn't want to hear people congratulate him about the move. All he wanted to do was train and learn about the club. For him, it was extremely important to know every bit of history there was to know about Barcelona before making the move, because he wanted to make sure that when he goes to the club, he becomes one of them right away. He wanted to be prepared for when the time comes. And the time came. In 1990, Hristo Stoichkov didn't just pack his bags and leave to Barcelona. He carried the hopes of an entire nation on his back with him. See, this was more than a transfer. This had never happened before. For the country of Bulgaria, this was huge, and he didn't want to disappoint anyone. But more importantly, he wanted to prove himself at the biggest stage there is. And what bigger stage than the biggest stadium in European football? The Camp Nou, the cathedral of football. He hit the ground running. He looked unstoppable. In his first 3 games, he scored 3 goals for Barcelona, and everything looked like it was just falling in place for him. The thing is, life has a funny way of keeping you grounded. After suffering a slight injury from a sprinkler that had failed to retract on the stadium, he took some time to recover and his numbers started going down. However, he was still playing good. In fact, the coach was really happy with the way he was playing. And this is exactly when chaos took over his life again. You see, he was used to intense matches between rivals, having played for CSKA Sofia against Levski Sofia, but he couldn't have expected what his first El Clasico would bring. During his first El Clasico, in a moment of madness, he had felt that the referee had disrespected his coach, his team, and himself, and so he took it upon himself to stomp on the referee in a very violent manner. See, what happened was, there was a really hard tackle on Stoichkov. However, the ref did not award Barcelona a foul. This led to Johan Cruyff jumping out of the bench to confront the referee with some very colorful language. The referee did not like that and showed Johan Cruyff the red card right away, which led to Stoichkov mentioning the ref's mother a couple of times, and then, when the ref decided to talk back to him, the incident happened. Understandably so, the ref sent him off with a direct red card, once he could manage the pain of course. But everybody knew that the real punishment would come after the match. Stoichkov admitted that he was expecting the worst. By the end, he only got a 2-month ban on the basis that the ref did not do enough to de-escalate things. By this time, he was already used to being banned, so it's almost like he knew exactly what to do when he was banned, because when he came back from the ban, he was possessed. He scored 10 goals in his first 5 matches back, so he was obviously using the time well. Barcelona was now on to the semi-finals where they would meet Baggio's Juventus. Bear in mind that by this point, Baggio was the only player in the competition to have more goals than Stoichkov. Stoichkov, however, was ready for the battle, and he even outscored Baggio 2-1 in the tie, qualifying Barcelona to the final. Unfortunately, life would once again test Stoichkov, and he would get injured just 2 days before the final against Manchester United. And without him, Barcelona lost the final. However, domestically, Barcelona were crowned champions. And on a personal level, the 14 goals Stoichkov scored throughout the season didn't seem like a lot, but when you consider that Hugo Sanchez, the other top scorer of the league, was injured for the full second half of the season, the 14 goals he scored were enough for him to be the top scorer of the league. The season after that is where everything clicked for Barcelona. You see, the dream team now had the dream chemistry. Players like Ronald Koeman, Baquero, Zebio, Chiqui Begiristain and Laudrup all knew that with the right mentality and a little bit of luck, Stoichkov could take Barcelona to new heights. And they were right. In the now European Cup group stages, Stoichkov would score 4 goals in 4 games to qualify Barcelona to the final. See, back in the day, the competition was split into 2 groups, and the winner of each group would make it to the final. On the final, Barcelona would have to play Roberto Mancini's Sampdoria, who at the time was one of the best teams around. Stoichkov did not score in the final, mostly due to some amazing defending and amazing goalkeeping from the Italians. However, his teammate Ronald Koeman got the job done with an incredible free kick. And so that was it. The little boy from Plovdiv, who on multiple occasions was told he would never make it, was a European Cup champion. In an almost unimaginable turn of events, the dagger, as everybody called him because of his sharpness up front, had achieved European greatness. But he wasn't ready to slow down yet. See, back in Spain, Real Madrid was still leading Barcelona by a single point on the last match day of the season. This meant that for Barcelona to win the league, not only did they need to win their match, but they also needed Real Madrid to drop points. The stage was set. Barcelona had to play Athletic Bilbao, who at the time were one of the best teams in the country, and Real Madrid would have to play Tenerife. You see, journalists before the games pretty much handed the title to Real Madrid, because at the time, Tenerife were an extremely weak side, and they were battling relegation. Both matches started, and you could feel the tension in the air. Well, not for long though, because before the 25th minute, Real Madrid was leading 2-0, looking like they were about to seal the deal. However, things were interesting again quite quickly. See, in the 36th minute, both scorelines changed. Stoichkov had scored for Barcelona, which meant they were 1-0 up, and Tenerife had gotten 1 goal back, and that's how both halves finished. However, coming back for the second half, Stoichkov took it upon himself to score another goal right away, which meant Barcelona were 2-0 up, and now pretty much cruising and controlling the game. However, they were quite unlucky because Real Madrid had just scored their 3rd goal as well. Or at least that's what they thought, right before the referee cancelled Real Madrid's goal because of an offside. See, Real Madrid's player Villarroya had gotten himself a red card, and so Real Madrid were down to 10 men. Tenerife, smelling blood in the water and fighting relegation, kept pushing until they got their equalizer in the 77th minute of the match. You see, back in the day, they used to switch between the broadcasts of both games, and you could just see in the 77th minute how every football fan around the world held their breath of what might happen on that day. And before realizing what had actually happened, and in between switching the broadcast and switching it back to the Real Madrid game, Tenerife had just scored another goal. Real Madrid didn't know what hit them. Their fans looked completely crushed, and Tenerife fans were loving the fact that they just ruined millions of people's dreams. It's just 1 goal. Both games finished with no more changes, and Barcelona were crowned the champions of La Liga for the 2nd year in a row, meaning they won the domestic double. After the year they just had, it would be easy to imagine that Stoichkov would be the Ballon d'Or favorite. However, there was another name emerging as well, Marco van Basten. The Dutchman had an incredible season too, and most journalists agreed that the Ballon d'Or would probably be decided by their performances early next season. Stoichkov must have heard them because he started the next season like a man possessed. He scored 17 goals in 19 games right before the Ballon d'Or voting came around. The Ballon d'Or was surely his, right? Well, wrong. In a highly controversial turn of events, the Ballon d'Or was awarded to Marco van Basten, who won by just 18 points, one of the smallest gaps in the award's history. A lot of fans and journalists felt like Stoichkov was robbed that year, and the Ballon d'Or was given to Marco van Basten just because of his career-ending injury at 28. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Stoichkov did not let this discourage him, and he still performed at the highest level for Barcelona, winning them the European Super Cup, but most importantly, once again, showing up when his team needed him the most. And I'm saying that because it happened again. Yeah, it happened again. On the final match day of the season, Real Madrid were 1 point ahead of Barcelona. Barcelona once again needed to win their game and to hope that Real Madrid dropped points. This time, however, Barcelona would face Real Sociedad in the final day of the season, and Real Madrid would face Tenerife again. And guess what? This time, Tenerife didn't come to play. They had done it the year before. They knew they could do it again, and by the 13th minute, they were already winning the match. Stoichkov, upon learning what his boys at Tenerife were doing to Real Madrid again, decided to accept the favor and score 1 himself. Both matches ended with no other changes, and for the 2nd year in a row, the mighty Tenerife had shattered each and every Madridista's soul. And for the 2nd year in a row, Stoichkov crowned Barcelona the La Liga champions. Now, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I've seen a lot of you guys talk about football being scripted, for the last 6 months or so, ever since Messi won the World Cup. You might have a point. How is this even possible? For the first time ever, Barcelona were crowned the Liga champions for 3 years in a row. However, there was no time to think about anything else. The following year came the 1993-94 season, and Stoichkov started it a bit slow, at least for his standards. This might also be because Romario joined the team and the attacking responsibilities of the team weren't solely on him anymore. Well, that was until February, because in February Stoichkov got a red card again, and after coming back from the red card punishment, he scored 17 goals in 19 matches. But the most important thing is that he was once again there when his team needed him the most. Yes, it happened again. See, I want you guys to prepare for what I'm about to say. Sit down if you have to, because for the third time in a row, Barcelona was 1 point behind the league leader on the last match day of the season. This time, however, the team they were chasing was not Real Madrid, probably because they decided to take a year off for mental health reasons. And so the leader of La Liga was Deportivo La Coruña. Deportivo was about to face Valencia in the last match day of the season, and Barcelona had to play Sevilla. The Deportivo and Valencia game was quite boring. It ended in a goalless draw, so right after the final whistle, everybody shifted their attention to the Barcelona game. See, that game was way more fun. In fact, Sevilla was leading on 2 different occasions, and twice Stoichkov scored goals to bring Barcelona level. He was always there when Barcelona needed saving, and he pretty much kept them in the game by himself. Needless to say, unable to defeat Stoichkov, Sevilla got completely discouraged and allowed another 3 goals in, which meant Barcelona had won La Liga for the 4th time in a row, and for the 3rd time in a row Stoichkov had secured the title on the last day of the season. The celebrations, however, were not long at all, because they had the Champions League final coming up. Stoichkov had once again pretty much single-handedly qualified Barcelona to the Champions League final, scoring 8 goals in 4 matches in the competition. On the final, however, Barcelona met pretty much the only team in the world that could match them, the mighty AC Milan. See, before the match, Cruyff had to sacrifice one of his foreign players because at the time only 3 foreign players were allowed to start a match for you in the Champions League. Controversially, Cruyff decided to drop Laudrup, which really hurt Barcelona. One of Cruyff's most controversial decisions, and most experts say that that decision alone doomed Barcelona in the final. However, Stoichkov had no time to process the loss because he had just helped Bulgaria qualify to the World Cup, having knocked out France in the qualifying stages, so he had to travel to the US. Funnily enough, Bulgaria started the World Cup in the worst possible way. They lost 3-0 to Nigeria, and once again, everybody looked at Stoichkov for hope. And hope is exactly what he delivered, scoring 2 in a 4-0 victory against Greece, and then scoring again against Argentina to give Bulgaria the victory in the game after that. And then the knockout stages came around. He scored the one and only Bulgarian goal against Mexico before going through on penalties. That's when things started to get serious. The whole world was watching, and the whole country of Bulgaria was anxious. However, the team didn't really care. See, they were partying and drinking poolside. They didn't respect any curfews the competition gave them. Stoichkov was recorded saying, I quote, "We will take them, no problem at all," before starting to count in German, making fun of their accents and language. Which back then I guess it was okay, now you get cancelled for that. You see, these guys were just a different breed. In the quarterfinals, Bulgaria went behind against Germany, but Stoichkov tied the match with another goal before eventually Bulgaria winning the match. Now at the semifinals, and with the whole world watching, the small country defeats some of the best teams around. Football brought us Bulgaria versus Italy, and once again, Stoichkov met Baggio, probably the 2 best players of the World Cup. Before the match, Italy's manager Sacchi was asked how he was planning to stop Stoichkov, to which he replied, "My original plan was a gun. Regardless, once the match started, Italy would get 2 goals through Baggio, but they knew that as long as Stoichkov was on the pitch, the match was far from over." He got 1 goal back for Bulgaria and was looking increasingly more dangerous as the time went past. However, Bulgaria's luck had run out. In what is known as one of the most controversial decisions in the World Cup, the referee failed to call a clear handball by Italy inside their penalty area, which should have resulted in a penalty for Bulgaria. When you include the fact that Stoichkov was injured and couldn't continue the game, this is where the Bulgarian dream ended. Needless to say, everyone was disappointed, but the nation of Bulgaria had not been disunited in a long time. And I know that because I'm from Bulgaria, and I hear how my parents and grandparents talk about that summer of '94 and what it meant for them and what it meant for the country as a whole. And they're still extremely proud of the achievement of that team, and they're still extremely grateful for everything they managed to do and the way they represented us at that time when nobody pretty much knew about us. Whichever way you put it, Stoichkov played a huge part in regular people's lives, and even to this day he's one of the most loved figure in Bulgaria. Obviously his career kept going after that, but this was kind of like his crowning moment, and after that things go a little bit disappointing, and the way he ended his career was maybe not the best way, or the way that everybody expect it, but this is what you get with Stoichkov. There's really no middle ground with him. Everything is extreme. I'll leave you with something he said years after when thinking back to that particular game. He said at the time, because of how Bulgaria qualified for the World Cup and because of how we managed to reach the semifinals with some very extremely important goals and some luck was on our side as well, the saying God was Bulgarian became like a huge thing. Everybody was saying that. It became a very popular phrase at the time. And so Stoichkov, looking back at the game, he said, I still believe God is Bulgarian. However, the referee was French. And if I see him today, I'll spit in his face. That was the last time he discussed that game. And I think just it's kind of summarizes him as a persona in a great way, because he lived, breathed, and in the future die loving football. And this is why he's considered one of the, most important icons for the game, at least in the last 30 years. And I think going down, generations will remember him for that. Anyway, his 6 goals in 6 matches at the World Cup also meant that he had won the Golden Boot again. He ended the last few months of the year in top form, but maybe for the last time. He scored 12 goals in 14 matches in November, some of them coming against Atletico Madrid, Valencia, Manchester United. And so December came around, they could no longer argue about who deserved the Golden Ball. He had shown that he was consistently the best in the world, and rightfully so. After a long wait, he finally won the Ballon d'Or, feat no one else from Bulgaria had managed to achieve yet. And also, I think this is a good time to explain to you what his name means. You see, Hristo basically means Christ in Bulgarian. And so, upon receiving the Ballon d'Or, his speech was actually hilarious. I think his speech was just, again, represents him in the best way possible. He said, there are only 2 Christs. One is in heaven, the other one plays at the Camp Nou. And I think realistically, this speech makes Zlatan seem like a kindergartner. I would probably make a whole new video to discuss the rest of his career, because, everything started going downhill from then. But I just wanted to remind people about him. Most importantly, I wanted to make this video for my younger siblings as well, so they know who he is, and they can continue to be proud of who he was as a player. Because I don't know if you guys seen, but it's not looking good for us, It's not like we're going to be qualifying for the World Cup anytime soon. It's not like any of our teams are going to be qualifying for anything probably in the next 10-15 years. So it's always fun to show people where we once were, and it's always good to share the story of a football icon. Today, Stoichkov has also ventured into the world of television, becoming a pundit and sharing his insights on the game. He's also a Barcelona representative and an amazing ambassador for the game. The little boy from Plovdiv has written his name in history.